It's Wednesday. Hello, Sam. Just having a seat now, enjoying the lounge music today.
That's right. It's good music.
Yeah.
Good, pleasant music.
We got people filing in here. Keister's asking if there's technical issues. I hope not.
No, it's just dancing.
It looks like we're live. No, everything seems to be working, so I think we're okay here on this end. Phew. Anyways.
So I was digging through, sifting through, looking through, whatever. I was browsing the latest filings on the SEC.
Yeah.
It's a good place to look for news. If you're a publicly traded company, you gotta disclose the big stuff and the regular stuff. So new stuff as it hits the SEC. We got one filing today from the New York Times. $40 million in quarterly operating profit.
Jesus.
From the most recent report. $40 million.
Y'all aren't doing nearly as good of a job as you need to be doing unsubscribing from the New York Times and subscribing to the District Sentinel.
That's just so obscene. $40 million. I'm not saying, newspapers shouldn't be viable economically, but come the fuck on, especially considering some of the idiots they pay. Barry Weiss, Thomas Friedman, David Brooks, Brett Stevens. That's their business model.
I guess they're
effing
money makers here.
Sam Sachs is getting a phone call. This is awkward.
I need to silence my phone. It's okay. We're declining the phone call. It's from a number I don't recognize anyways.
You don't get this kind of excitement with the New York Times.
No.
I promise you that.
Definitely not. Also news, we talked about yesterday's show, Trump's tweet about the California wildfires, blaming them on Jerry Brown, for the governor, for... You having a little sip there? A little sip of coffee now. Thought we had gotten past our days of drinking hot coffee during the show, but here's Sam Knight, who's going to be slurping during the whole show. Because neither he nor Intern Nate have ever learned how to drink a beverage before.
It's full. It's full now. Here, I'll take a sip. It won't be hot. Listen. Keep going. Continue.
Anyways, we had Trump. That was better. Trump blaming the wildfires on the governor for diverting water into the Pacific Ocean or something. We've got the Interior Secretary now, Ryan Zinke, blaming the wildfires on environmentalists, claiming that environmentalists' lawsuits, whenever the Interior Department tries to do controlled burnings or something, is a reason why we have massive wildfires. I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah, I can't think of any other reasons why the planet is becoming more conducive to fires. What else could that be?
Our fucking hothouse planet, as the report described yesterday. The Earth turning into a hothouse planet. That might be it, too. All right, let's just get the newscast started. You got anything else to say?
No, that's it.
You got to get to blasting here soon. Sam and I got in some blasting before we sat down here.
GTA.
In the interest of full disclosure with our audience.
Grand Theft Auto.
All right, here we go. Time for some news. This is District Sentinel Radio, the loudest newscast on the left. I'm Sam Sachs.
I'm Sam Knight.
We are broadcasting out of the Intern Nate is Not a Worker Studios in Washington, D.C. Check out the website, districtsentinel.com.
Continuing our coverage at the top of the show of Elon Musk's Twitter habits.
The Elon Musk meltdown, now entering month 4.
Month 4, a new dimension. Some might argue a market manipulating dimension.
Did Elon Musk break the law on Twitter again?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think he has, but Either way, even if he didn't, it's kind of a capitalism telling on itself, in my opinion. But either way, let's just continue here. So yesterday, Elon, our sweet spaceship boy, he tweeted out of the blue, quote, "Am considering taking Tesla private." Private at $420 per share. He didn't write per share. He just wrote, "I'm considering taking Tesla private at $420."
Might wanted me to respond nice to it. Cool.
Probably, and also funding secured. So everything about this seems like it's directed at people on the internet. From the 420 to the tweet to everything else.
The whole funding secured.
Funding secured. Anyway, after this tweet, Tesla stock, it went from $342 per share, and it jumped up to above $370 per share. Kind of seems like he's just doing this because he knows Tesla's going bankrupt, and he doesn't want people to own him online with screen caps of the stock going way down.
It was interesting. MSNBC, of all places, was speculating this might have to do with news of a major Saudi investor in Tesla that Elon Musk might be embarrassed about. But look, if he's not planning on taking this private and he was just lying to jack up his stock price, that could be illegal behavior.
It could be. It could be. That said, the Financial Times was reporting that some independent board was evaluating a buyout plan, but that it was still in a very early stage. And I don't know. Maybe it's legit. But like I said, even if it is legit, maybe it's intended just to save some embarrassment with Tesla, with questions about Tesla's profitability.
Perhaps. Hello to everyone watching at home or at work on the live stream. That's Kevin, Luke, Randall, Tina, Keister, all y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Jeremy, Kevin. $5 a month on Patreon. You can have access to our live stream. www.patreon.com/District Sentinel. You could also get access to all sorts of bonus content, including Friday's Sentinel Cast. You also get the zine that's coming out later this week or over the weekend.
Next week.
Yeah, early next week. Before, we're taking half of next week off. SK1's going out of town. We'll have a zine out before that.
Yep.
Also, you get your own poem, a haiku read on the air by the two Sams, and we're going to read a few of them right now.
This is for Christopher. I want 7 days sitting in a plastic pool filled up with ice cream.
Is that what's going to happen next week when you leave? You're going to sit in a pool filled with ice cream?
I wouldn't rule it out.
Thank you, Christopher. This one is for Cal. All my heroes are professional wrestlers, except Big Boss Man.
Thank you, Cal. I assume Big Boss Man is a heel in the WWF parlance.
The ultimate heel because he was a cop.
Oof. Moving on. Finally, this is for Chris. We had Christopher, now this is for Chris.
All three C's. Chris, Cal, and Christopher.
Finally, for Chris. Gotta blast some shit. Whoop, whoop, here I come blasting. 5 stars, GTA.
We're sick people over here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you once again to all the new subscribers on Patreon, patreon.com/District Sentinel. Help this little plucky news co-op here in Washington, D.C. It's Wednesday, August 8th, 2018. Here's the news. Oh man, love this. Sitting U.S. member of Congress was taken into custody Wednesday morning. U.S. Rep. Chris Collins from New York surrendered to authorities on charges of insider trading. According to the indictment, the Republican, Collins, who sat on the board of pharmaceutical firm Innate Immunotherapeutics while serving as a member of Congress. First off, what the fuck? I guess this is cool, but right there should be a problem when someone's serving as a member of Congress and on the board of a corporation. Anyways, Collins got privileged information about the company because he was on the board and immediately shared that privileged information with his family, who in turn dumped stock in the company, saving them more than $750,000. Collins himself couldn't dump stock. He ended up losing $17 million on the stock. Collins reportedly got word that the pharmaceutical firm had failed a key clinical trial, news that essentially meant the company was worthless. Its stock ended up losing more than 90% of its value. Collins was an early and very vocal supporter of one Donald Trump, and the court filing shows that Collins actually received word about the failed clinical trial while he was at the White House at a White House picnic. This was back in 2017, and it was there, on the grounds of the White House, that Collins got the ball rolling to commit insider trading by repeatedly phoning his son, and then later informing his fiancée and his fiancée's father that the clinical trial had failed. All of them are now criminals for acting on it. Nice job, Chris, bringing down the whole family with you. And we here at the Sentinel have reported on Collins before and his relationship with Innate Immunotherapeutics. His name popped up during former Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price's confirmation hearing. Price allegedly purchased shares in the company at the urging of Collins, all while Price was working on legislation that affected the company. I say allegedly, I shouldn't have. He did. He bought this stock while he was legislating, and he got the stock tip from Collins. It was reported elsewhere around that time that Collins was overheard on the phone in the Capitol bragging about all the members of Congress he had made rich with stock tips. I wonder how many of those members of Congress were able to get out before Innate Immunotherapeutics crash, and how many of them, if they did get out, received insider trading tips from our boy Chris Collins. The House Ethics Committee had already been tipped off on Collins potentially engaged in insider trading and began an investigation last October and found that there was substantial reason to believe that this was indeed the case. House Speaker Paul Ryan suggested that Collins could lose his committee positions while the matter is being adjudicated. Now, Collins denies the allegations and has promised to remain on the ballot in November and win his seat. Just going to say, it's very rare that a member of Congress gets indicted, a sitting member of Congress, particularly one on insider trading charges. You have to be really, really dumb to get caught, and Mr. Collins was pretty fucking dumb in this case.
Yesterday was Election Day in a number of states. In Ohio, Republicans look set to barely hold on to a House seat that has been red since the 80s. Republican Troy Balderson is beating Democrat Danny O'Connor by just 1,754 votes. The race has not yet been called, with more than 3,000 provisional and absentee ballots to count. There was a Green Party candidate in the race, Joe Manchin. He won 1,127 votes, way less than the difference between Balderson and O'Connor. But that hasn't stopped liberals from shitting their diapers all day about third-party candidates in the Green Party potentially costing them the race. Heaven forbid you fucks actually have to go out and try to earn votes from people on the left, or try to turn non-voters into voters.
Look, if you would have taken all the votes the Green Party candidate got and added it to the Democratic candidate, he would have just barely squeaked in within the margin of error and not lost by as much, but maybe a chance would have triggered a recount.
Even if Republicans do cling to the 12th District of Ohio, last night bodes poorly for them. Conservatives heading into the midterm, that is, as do other results. In Missouri, a right-to-work ballot initiative was rejected by more than two-thirds of voters. And in Michigan, Democratic voters outnumbered Republican voters in the gubernatorial primaries by almost 140,000. Speaking of the Michigan governor's race, here's the bad news. Bernie-crat Abdul El Sayed lost to Dem establishment candidate Gretchen Whitmer There was no repeat of the Bernie 2016 miracle in Michigan. El Sayed lost by 22 points. A self-funded creepy millionaire named Sri Thanadar took 17% of the vote. Now, the good news from Michigan, the race to fill the seat held by John Conyers was won by Rashida Tlaib. Tlaib is a Palestinian American. She will be the first Muslim woman to serve in Congress, and she describes herself as anti-war. I'd say all in all a mixed night for the left with El Sayed losing in Michigan, but I don't get how Politico comes up with its headline right now. Bernie and his army are losing 2018.
I get it. They just hate Bernie.
I should also note that Chris Kobach, someone we talked about on the show yesterday, he is winning the Kansas gubernatorial primary by a few hundred votes.
A lot of Democrats are happy with that, forgetting that the last time they rooted for a certain Republican to win a primary, thinking it would be an easy path to victory, they got beat. Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Also note on that when it comes to Politico, can you imagine if you're like a hill rag like Politico, covering politicians all the time, politicians who are never popular. I mean, Congress itself is extremely unpopular. Most politicians have upside down popularity ratings on Capitol Hill. Bernie Sanders is by far and away the most popular politician of our lifetimes. And yet your beat is to constantly shit on Bernie Sanders and forecast that he's costing Dems things or he's a big-time loser or whatever. Like, what are you doing?
Whenever it's the left winning, they write it off as, oh, it's unique to the district. Oh, the candidate wwho lost was a particularly bad candidate.
I don't want to stand for Bernie too much. I mean,
right.
We give Bernie shit when he fucks up, and I'll call Bernie out when he gets a little too like conspiratorial in Russiagate and stuff, and when he says dumb shit. But like the axe these people still have to grind from 2016 is really, really something. Interesting court case in California's Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where the state and environmental groups are trying to stop the government from waiving environmental laws to build a border wall. The government cited national security to ignore more than 36 environmental regulations as it hopes to speed up construction of a border wall near San Diego. Plaintiffs in the case, however, question if the laws the government cited in the case, the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, they question if that law even applies and whether the government actually does have the authority to waive the environmental laws. The three-judge panel heard oral arguments on Tuesday. According to Courthouse News, there was no indication on when the judges will issue a verdict. A lower court has already sided with the Trump administration on the issue. Now, back in January, DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen informed everyone that DHS would waive all environmental regulations for a similar border wall project near El Paso. This is just something they do.
More combat in the ongoing trade wars. China retaliated against the U.S. with a new round of tariffs, 25% on $16 billion in goods, effective in 2 weeks. The taxes will impact vehicles, fiber optics, energy, and other industrial goods, according to the LA Times. The penalty imposed by China is equal to one announced yesterday by the Trump administration. The U.S. trade rep unveiled duties on Chinese goods, including motorcycles, fiber optic cables, and railway cars. Interesting note here from Reuters today on the ongoing tit for tat. If it's prolonged, China, quote, will run out of U.S. imports to levy as it bought only $130 billion worth of American goods last year. It would likely have to impose penalties on U.S. companies doing business in China to make up the difference, end of quote. Also of note, Chinese state media have been saying that Apple Computer could be collateral damage. An interesting excerpt from a column printed last week in the Global Times and again yesterday in the People's Daily. Quote, China is by far the most important overseas market for the U.S.-based Apple, leaving it exposed if Chinese people make it a target of anger and nationalist sentiment. Continuing, China doesn't want to close its doors to Apple despite the trade conflict, but if the U.S. company wants to earn good money in China, it needs to share its development dividends with the Chinese people. What do you think it means, share its development dividends here? I don't know. Trump could be making China communist again. Score yet another one for accelerationism.
Let's hope. That is the newscast for today. Let's see what people are saying on the old comment line. We got Jeremy here noting that Governor Northam has just declared a state of emergency in Charlottesville. Guessing this has to do with the 1-year anniversary of the Charlottesville
The rally.
fascist rally. I don't know, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You can.
The murder of.
Are they having another rally there? I mean, the rally's in D.C. this weekend. Is there another one going on in Charlottesville
there is
too?
stuff I think going on in Charlottesville too.
Man, I see.
There's definitely stuff going on.
I see the YouTube stream is filled with people talking about our GTA stream and how we spent 2.5 hours, or I spent 2.5 hours trying to steal a jet from the military base. We've got a suggestion here from Randall that they should just build the border wall out of asbestos. Not bad. Eating paint chips to own the libs is what is said. All right. The listener rant line is
Maybe
blinking.
we should build the Pentagon out of asbestos and tear down whatever border wall there is. I don't know. Just another joke. Build the Pentagon out of asbestos.
Let's do it.
Hey, Sam. This is Matt from San Francisco. Long time, first time. Just wanted to call and talk about the insane Trump water tweet. Sounds like that might be the first of potentially painful discourse into California water politics, which are just as insane as you think they might be in our drought-addled hellhole. And looking forward to this being a big part of the discourse going forward, where Trump's support in places like the Central Valley and lots of farming families is constantly at odds with us eco-hippie freaks on the coast. But look forward to more insane California water discourse in the future. It's really a hell of a trip. Take care.
Interesting.
This is not the first time I've heard people from California talk about the crazy water wars that go on out there. And it's very much imbued in, or intertwined, I should say, in California history and how Los Angeles and I know Los Angeles itself, how that developed. And isn't the movie Chinatown, doesn't that have something to do with water in California, or is it just because of that one scene where all that water rushes and hits Jack Nicholson? Does that happen? I haven't seen Chinatown. I got to see it, Chinatown.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I've seen Big Trouble in Little China. I think it's Kurt Russell in that movie. Or Patrick Swayze. I get them both mixed up, but I think this one's Kurt Russell. All right. We're going to have to ask the weed lawyer, Stephen B.C., about all that stuff next time we have him on the show. Maybe he knows about water, too.
He might.
Hey, what's up? This is the Macho Man Rand Paul's neighbor. I have a bit of a, conspiracy theory about why the Trump administration is trying to scuttle the AOL Time Warner merger. We all know that Trump values loyalty above all else. And Donald Trump is a WWE Hall of Famer, made that famous appearance at WrestleMania where he sold the Stone Cold Stunner, just the worst that anybody has ever sold it. But Time Warner are the former owners of World Championship Wrestling, WCW, who are the only people who have ever beaten Vince McMahon's WWE in the ratings back in the mid-'90s. So I think maybe Donald Trump might be, sticking it to Time Warner just to kind of give him a little kick and show Vince McMahon that he's still loyal to him. So, I don't know. Take that as you will. Bye.
Interesting theory from Macho Man Rand Paul's neighbor who watches entirely too much wrestling. I could see it, though.
I could also see it.
I was a big WCW boy when I was growing up. I watched a lot of WCW. Then I went back to WWF, and then back to WCW. I was a big, really into the NWO skirmishes. I don't give a shit. All right, one last call today.
Hi, Sam. It's me, your pal, Marvin. Hey, I was just calling because haven't seen Jorts in a while, and I don't know. I was wondering if either of y'all might have seen him or heard from him. We haven't been able to do our show because I know he's taking the old Oregon Trail out to Oregon where he's living now, and haven't really heard much from him. I'm starting to get a little worried. I hope he's all right. Anyhow, keep up the good work. You guys do a great job with the news. And, just really, let me know if you find Jorts. We really got to do another show. If you know what happened to him, please don't hesitate to call me back. Okay, bye.
Yeesh.
Oof.
Who's gonna be the one to let Marvin know about Jorts? I'm sure he'll find out soon enough what happened. I don't understand. Why does everybody think they got to take the Oregon Trail to Oregon as though that's the only way to get to Oregon nowadays? There are plenty of ways to get to Oregon without the Oregon Trail, which is known to carry diseases, to flood. Lots of bad things can happen on the Oregon Trail. Just take the dang train next time, or
Listen,
take the dang.
It's called
plane.
the Oregon Trail, not a Oregon Trail.
That is going to do it for the newscast today. Call the rant line 202-684-6108. Sponsors of the show include the Congressional Dish podcast hosted by Jen Bryan. You find it at congressionaldish.com. Another sponsor, levelnews.org. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. Tune in by searching for District Sentinel Radio. Give us a review. Give us a rating. Tell your friends to listen. No, really. Tell your friends to listen. And tell them to subscribe on Patreon so we can cut into the New York Times' quarterly profit numbers. 40 million is way too fucking much. Patreon.com/District Sentinel. Whatever you can spare. We'll take it. Newscast is back tomorrow. We're in D.C., so you don't have to be.